In a time where everyone seems to be trying to get in on the subscription service model, instead of selling you individual products, selling you access to unlimited amounts of products as long as you continue to pay, therefore ensuring continual recurrent spending from all the people using your product and your platform, it baffles me that Google Stadia does not embrace this model, because it seems the one most primed to benefit from such a business model. Let's back up for a second. Everybody and their mom is trying to get in on streaming, and gaming is no exception. We have the Xbox Game Pass, we have the newly announced at E3 Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you both the Xbox Game Pass or Xbox, great name, the Xbox Game Pass or PC, and Xbox Live, which I guess means Xbox Live is going to be on PC now. Good luck selling a subscription service for online access to PC gamers, Microsoft. Good fucking luck. Sony has their own version with PlayStation Plus. Nintendo is probably going to get it on it if they haven't already. They have their Nintendo $10 whatever live internet thing, which nobody likes. Netflix, of course, started the whole trend. It being really successful is really what set off the subscription model. We have tons of software going subscription only, Adobe being the biggest and most annoying of all of them. So everybody wants to do subscription service because that means that people are paying you every month, as opposed to you buying something when you need it and then that's it. Even if that's a higher initial price, having concurrent spending from tons of users that is guaranteed to continue for as long as you continue to provide things that is useful is good business-wise. It also can be convenient for the consumer if you're spending significantly less on the subscription per month than you would buying whatever you're using with the subscription over time. Stadia is a streaming service without the subscription of a streaming service, because you're streaming the content instead of buying anything, but they're still charging you like you're buying something, even though you're only buying essentially a license to access things and nothing ever really is downloaded locally to your computer. As much as I'm not a fan of DRM with Steam and stuff, you're still downloading local files to your computer, so if shit really hits the fan and Steam died tomorrow, you'd have local downloads of your games that you could potentially find a third-party way to get past the DRM and still play the games. If you're buying things from GOG, you don't even have to worry about this. I will die on the hill of defending GOG. But Stadia gives you nothing, because nothing is run locally. It's just streaming the stuff to your computer. So because you're not actually touching anything, and because you have no guarantee that Stadia is even going to succeed long term, because Google is notorious for having great ideas and abandoning them within a handful of years, and if Stadia doesn't catch on as quickly as they want, it could go the way of Google Wave or promising ideas that didn't last. So the idea of me investing in Stadia to just buy access to things where I could actually buy and get local files on other services, doesn't seem like a great prospect. They're going to have to really add some sort of value proposition on top of that. As somebody who owns a decent graphics card and can play these games locally and doesn't need to run them off a remote server with Stadia, I understand for a lot of people this is a value proposition all on its own, but at the end of the day you don't own anything, and so you're spending the exact same amount of money you would on Stadia that you would get like a disc hard copy for a PlayStation or a local download with any of the other stores like Epic or Steam. So in terms of like what you end up getting, for me, doesn't really work. Which brings me to my point, out of all these services, Google's is the one that would make the most sense as a traditional subscription service. Let me pay X amount of dollars per month so I can just rent essentially on demand or have access to on demand all of the titles on the store. Because if I'm not buying them really anyways at the end of the day, I'd feel a lot better just paying for access so that if it does go Google Wave, all I've done is paid for access. I never was under the illusion that I owned anything in my library anyways, because I don't have a library. My library is everything on Stadia. So even if it's something expensive, right? Like let's say $50 a month for Stadia. If I play 2 games a month on Stadia, I've more than made my money back. Because if we're talking $60 titles, the same kind of games I'd get on an Xbox or PC through Steam, then the business model works. For me as a consumer, I don't know if Google can justify it on their end, and maybe that's why they didn't go this route. But in terms of like penetrating the market and really attracting early adopters, because I think the normies who don't invest in PC hardware and don't want to keep buying consoles will appreciate this, but they're not the people who are really going to appreciate the benefits that Stadia brings in terms of the high frame rate and stuff like that. You know, if you're not keen on buying a console or spending a couple $100s on a graphics card, I don't think you're the kind of person who's going to be like, man, I really want 60 frames per second. If it's 30 frames, I'm going to riot. Like, that's not the same kind of person. The people who are going to appreciate 4K 60 are the people who actually enjoy games and are the people who are going to be buying consoles and PC stuff regardless of Stadia's existence, because there's always going to be exclusives on these other platforms. I made a whole video talking about this. I'll link it in the description if you want my full rundown of my initial impressions of Stadia. But because of those reasons, I think to make this as something valuable for people like me who are into video games hardcore, if there was a subscription service I could pay for that let me basically try and have access to all the games that I normally don't buy. Like, there are games that come out that I have an interest in, but not enough to spend $60 on, you know, because at the end of the day, I don't have fuckloads of money to throw around on games. So I pick and choose the games that I want. So if I could pick and choose the games that I want, that I really want to play, and have them locally on the hardware that I've purchased and will continue to purchase because exclusives, but then all the other things, you know, maybe the multi-platform stuff, the Assassin's Creeds and things like that, that like maybe I would play, you know, once in a blue moon if I was feeling bored, but I don't want to run out and spend $60 on it. And I would just essentially wait 5 or so years till they drop to like the $5 to $10 bin at GameStop and maybe pick them up and maybe play them. If I could just pay a flat fee per month and have access to all those games and play them up front when they come out, and so I don't forget about them, and then at that point, maybe I'd be more interested in buying microtransactions. Not me specifically, because I will never do that. But other people, you know, this is a good way of getting developers to like, okay, a flat fee gets people access to our games, and then we're still making that upfront money that we want because that we refuse to do by going free to play. And then at that point, if we can get them just sitting down playing the game, and if they like it, they'll start buying things in the game, and then we can make even more money. The only person who seems set to lose here is Stadia and Google themselves, but Google makes so much fucking money, I think they could probably take the hit initially if they're losing some money on Stadia to build that install base. YouTube's been around for what, like almost 15 years now, and they're still losing money on that, so it doesn't seem too ridiculous to me that perhaps they could take a hit initially to build up the install base on Stadia and make it something that actually lasts. And for me, just for my personal taste, and I'm assuming I'm not alone on this, the best way to do that would make it a traditional subscription service like a Netflix for games, so I have an excuse to actually pay that monthly fee, try these other games that I wouldn't otherwise try. So sound off in the comments if you think that's a ridiculous idea and that you would never go for it, or if that sounds like something that you'd probably try, because I would. There's a lot of games that I don't end up playing just because they're cost prohibitive and I only have X amount of dollars, and I know the ones that I really want to play versus the ones I'm just curious about. So if Stadia changed maybe from like, we're going to be a new console, at least initially, to like a discovery engine for games, you know, ironically probably taking the gimmick that Xbox Game Pass is of discover your new favorite, I think Stadia could be much more posed to do something effective like that, especially because it's just essentially an access platform and not an ownership platform. So let me know what you think. Be the games you want to see.